it's a couple minutes past 4, so we want to go ahead and get started, even though we're waiting on a couple of people and a couple of things. This is the meeting where we set the agenda for next week's board meeting. We have several presentations this evening, and we will start with the presentations. And I would first of all like to call on City Manager Bruce Moore.
Thank you, Vice Mayor and members of the board. Today we're going to honor Henry Jezierski. I've been practicing that. Henry is in our fleet department. It's a great personality over the years as I've gotten to know him. He's worked for the city for 25 years. His awards and honors include an Automotive Service Excellent Master Mechanic, a Cadillac Gold Master Mechanic. His favorite memory of working for the city, he said, when I started working for the city, we serviced the Chevrolet Caprice for the Little Rock Police Department. Since then, we have went through the Ford Crown Victoria, the Dodge Charger, and now the Ford Inceptor. I've enjoyed the challenge of learning each new unit I have serviced. If I have ever serviced your unit and rebuilt the rear differential, look underneath for my signature smiley face. In his retirement, he's looking forward to making chips, and in November of each year, he plans on going hunting for the various seasons. At this time, let me ask Director of Fleet Services, Willie Hinton, to come forward.
Vice Mayor Webb, members of the board, Mr. Moore. When I first got to Fleet, the very first person that I met was Henry, and he told me that he was going to run me off too. Well, Henry, I outlasted you. Maybe by not by much, maybe, but at least I outlasted you. I've enjoyed working with Henry. He's a lot of fun. He has a joke every day. Sometimes I don't want to hear those jokes, so I kind of avoid him. But it's been a good ride for him. He's a great technician. And like Mr. Moore said, he's a lot of fun to be around. So, Henry, congratulations. We'll miss you around there, man. Of course, if you want to say anything to us.
Henry, on behalf of the city of Little Rock, thank you for 25 years of great service to the citizens and to the employees of the city. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You'd like to say anything?
I don't know what to say, but it was fun, but sometimes was, but most of it was fun. It wasn't fun when we had to work putting chains on the police cars. Because one day I stayed 2 days in there. So, but it's time, unfortunately.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
When Bruce said what you were going to do when you retire, Bruce, did you say that he was going to make chips?
Yep.
Can you explain that to some of us? What kind of chips?
I want to get back into metal work and cutting metal.
Okay.
Not edible chips. No. Years ago, I worked for Skillsaw, and I ran screw machines, which are a fancy automatic lathe. And it was fun. So I'll get back to it. So.
Thank you for clarifying that. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, we'll do that.
I know. Thank you very much. Thank you for your service. Okay. We have another presentation for the Fresh Food Drive presentation. And Diana, I think, was going to do that, but I don't see her. So we will go ahead and maybe she'll come in, and if so, we'll come back to that. We have a NUSA conference report. Mr. Becker.
Good evening. I bring you greetings from the NUSA board, for which I was elected last May and almost finished my first year. On last month, which I'm trying to think, it was a few weeks ago, the city of Little Rock did a presentation requesting that NUSA offer Little Rock the opportunity to host the 2020 conference. We were successful, and it was announced that in the month of May 2020, the National NUSA Conference will be hosted by the city of Little Rock. And that's something that a lot of people, Director Adcock, Team NUSA, and a lot of other members. We have 2 board members, Director Wright and Director Wyrick, who also went with us for the presentation. The NUSA board was highly impressed with the fact that twice before, the city of Little Rock has hosted NUSA, including the last time we hosted NUSA, another city was not able to perform, and we had to come in at the last moment, and people are still talking about what a wonderful conference that was here in Little Rock in the year, I believe it was 2010. And so there are a lot of people looking forward to coming back to Little Rock in 2020.
Sandy, can I ask you, how many people were at the conference in Birmingham?
767 registered adults, and it was roughly 120 youth. There was a parallel youth conference that was part of NUSA, and then and that did not take into account that there was probably about 200 volunteers that were not officially a part of that count. So the effect was probably over 1,000 people.
Great, thank you.
Okay. In this last conference, we had another person from Little Rock. That would be Dwight Pridgeon, this young man up here, run for NUSA board. Not only did he run for the board of the candidates, of which there were 7 official candidates, technically 8, he got the highest vote count of any of them. He's a very outgoing person, and I think he talked to almost everybody at NUSA. And so for the next 2 years, Little Rock will have 2 members on the NUSA board. And what we'll be doing is we'll be working with Team NUSA, with the city, with the Convention Bureau to help put everything together for 2020. And now, to come back to my small script, which I should have done in larger print. All right. At this point, I'd like Dwight to come forward and help me introduce 2 persons who will tell us a little bit about
NUSA.
NUSA.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the board, and Bruce Moore.
Wait a minute. I actually erred. Is the mayor here? Okay. There's something that. Do we want to, since he's not here, do we want to pause until he comes in, or what would we like to do? He's not in town? Okay. There was a presentation that Director Wright was going to make to the mayor. We'd like to say something in regard to it. Please.
Yes. Yes, I think I'm on now. Yes, there was a competition, and the mayor's newsletter, Monday Mornings with the Mayor, was entered into that competition, and it actually won 2nd place. So people were very impressed with how our mayor communicates with his constituents. So sorry he's not here, but this is it. I guess, who do I give this to, since I'm not presenting it to him, actually? Kathy, you want it? And we can pass it along to his assistant.
And we would like to thank all 3 of our directors that went with us at NUSA. And this was a large team effort, and we appreciate everyone's help. The mayor was scheduled to go, but he was not able to go. And we appreciate all the hard work that he's done, as well as being entered in this.
Vice Mayor,
Director Wyrick.
thank you. I have to say that even though I was on stage when this was presented, this is the first time I've seen it. The idea was that if he got to win this, that Doris and I were going to go on stage and accept the plaque for him in his absence. And so they called his name, and I'm looking for Doris, and she's already ran down the room and is about to go on stage. So I'm thinking, well, you know, I'm kind of late to the game, and everybody kept saying, go on, go on, go on. So I got down there. Doris got this plaque and put it in her purse. I never saw it until today. So I think our pictures were made together, and she was holding it. But it is a very nice plaque, and people were very impressed with his newsletter, and we handed out copies of one of his newsletters, and they were going, we want to do this in our city. So it really is a great award for him. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now to come back on script,
Yes.
Dwight.
Good afternoon, Vice Mayor, Mayor, and members of the board. I'd like to introduce Dolores Logan, who's the member of Fair Park Residents, and Sadilia Goli, who's the first-time member of the NUSA Conference, also president of Goodwill Neighborhood Association.
Good evening, city directors, friends, and neighbors. I'm going to talk about the tour in Birmingham, Alabama. The tour that I went on was bumming the dividing streets of College Hills. In 1940, Center Street in Birmingham, Alabama, divided the blacks and the whites. West side was for the whites, and east side was for the blacks. But as time went on, some black professionals decided to move to the west side. When they moved to the west side, their homes were burned and they were bombed. Then the Center Street was bombed so frequently that it was named Dynamite Hill. The NAACP attorney, Arthur Shores, had a home right on front of Center Street. There's an easel in front of his home with his picture on it and telling the history. His daughter, she yet lives in the house, and she came out and shared with us the bombings that were done to her home. But she yet lives there. And I enjoyed that tour so much. And it's good to be a part of NUSA due to the fact that going from state to state, you become very knowledgeable of the state's history.
Thank you.
Good evening, Vice Mayor and Board of Directors, and Mr. Bruce Moore, and our guests. My name is Adelia Goulet, have you already heard? And I'm going to give you an overview of what I learned at the conference. It was a very nice conference. The session that I liked it the most was called Complete Streets of Birmingham, The Way Forward. So let's create a complete street that are safe for everyone. For years, streets in the major city has been designed around the needs of the cars rather than those of people. It led to disconnect, unsafe neighborhoods that are hard to navigate and difficult to get around. Complete streets want to change different ways of thinking. One, to allow for safe, convenient, accessible travel for everyone. We want to see more sidewalks for walking, parking, for jogging, bike lanes for cycling. We also want to see more street lights, trees, landscaping, additional transit stops, better wheelchair access for the disabled, and safe route for school for our kids. Put simply, we want to create a connect neighborhood that are safe and convenient for everyone in the community where we live, work, and play. It also says we are complete street. A complete street approach to planning and transportation decision ensures that city streets are safe for users of all ages and abilities. Who benefits from complete streets? Older adults like myself, children, families, people with disabilities, pedestrians, bikers, commuters, everyone. how to complete street benefit a neighborhood. It improves safety, promotes healthier living, supports revitalization, enhances public transportation, and accommodate all residents.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Goley and Ms. Logan. In closing, I'd like to personally thank the members of Team NUSA that helped me campaign during the Birmingham Conference. And we all are looking forward to 2019 in Palm Springs, California. And quite naturally, in 2020, the city of Little Rock will be hosting the conference, and we're overexcited about doing that. And I'm excited to be working with Sandy Baker for Neighborhood USA Conference in the future. And I'm sure that with me and him on the board of directors, we'll make a big difference for the state of Arkansas as well as the city of Little Rock. Thank you.
Congratulations on your election, and thank you to everybody who went and represented us so well. Okay, I think everyone just received a new agenda that has 5 modifications on it. Would anybody like a presentation on any of the modifications? And I think I've got it right. Okay. Director Wright.
Yes, Vice Mayor, I'd like a presentation on M2 ordinance.
Okay. Mr. Moore?
Director Wright and members of the board, this is a program that was established by the county judge to offer a unit that would be available to Little Rock police officers in other cities and counties in central Arkansas. When there's someone that has some issues around mental illness, this will be an opportunity to take them to this location instead of the jail.
And and this is located?
It's going to be over there on Roosevelt Road by the current facility.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's a great opportunity for us in Central Arkansas because there were 4 of these pilot programs, I believe, that the governor proposed, and we were glad to get one of the 4.
I'm extremely happy to see that we're doing something with that because mental illness, I've just seen so many things in the last 6 months that have just astonished me, and I'm glad that we're moving forward with some way, infrastructure to address this issue.
Thank you. And just as an FYI, before we go on to others, number 1 and 4 are companion items. Director Wyrick?
Well, I was going to ask for a presentation on M2 as well. And then I see that we have M5 ordinance, a discussion. I don't know if it's appropriate to talk about it now or if it should be later on into the agenda.
Well, it's a discussion for next week, but if I would defer to Director Hendricks, I guess, to see about that.
I don't think I've seen the latest iteration of the ordinance.
You brought copies?
I gave the copies to Debbie, and she brought them downstairs. I'm just sitting here and note.
She said you were bringing the copies.
Well, I guess we're just trying to determine whether to add it to the agenda for next week. So
Yes.
maybe if we get the documents, we can talk about it a little bit later, maybe.
Mr.
Director
Moore,
Hendricks.
what's going on? The 19th was the date, and it was supposed to be on the agenda today. The
Yes.
resolution to deal with that large situation?
It is on here to be added to the agenda for the 19th, Director Hendricks.
Oh, and I asked that it be separate.
And it can be, we're just going through the modification items. That doesn't mean
I
that
can
they're
if you want me.
grouped.
Well, you know, I attempted to do that 2 weeks ago, and nobody said a mumbling word, so I didn't think it was necessary for me to waste my time. But I appreciate it. BJ, what were you asking?
Well, it's one of the modifications to our agenda. It's M5. It's one of the modifications. We don't have the document that Thomas prepared, and it shows to be a discussion.
No.
So
that's an error.
typically, if we have modifications, then we decide whether to add them to the agenda or not. And we know that you wanted it to be on the 19th, but it's showing up as a modification. It's a little curious how that's going on, so.
That's an error. That's an error. This was supposed to be on the agenda today as a separate item, and we vote on it next week.
Okay. I sent out the agendas on Friday, and you said that the document was not ready, that you and Tom were still working on it. So there was nothing that went out on Friday regarding this ordinance.
Bruce, I didn't intend for it to go out on Friday because that's not a practice of this board that things go out on that pony. So why would I be different?
Well, that's
you know, I fuss about that stuff, discrimination.
But Director Hendricks, that's why it's showing up on a modification, because these 5 items didn't go out Friday, and we need them to be on the agenda for the 19th. So anything that didn't go out on Friday, if we're going to add it, I do it as a modification. It's very consistent with how we operate.
Now, the courier tells me that I'm about the only one that gets something on Friday. So are you telling me that these board members get something every Friday? That's not so.
They get the agenda just like, I mean,
I don't get anything on Friday about the board. So what are you talking about? You mean email or the
Right.
pony? Okay, when you said that, I was thinking of the pony, the man that comes to my door. Okay.
You're the only one that still does that. That's correct.
Right, but Bruce, what my concern is that today it would be on the agenda. In fact, I sent out notices to the TV stations, the news media, that it would be on the agenda and that we would vote. Well, we've been talking for about the last 2 weeks that we would vote on it on the 19th.
And that's what you're going to do. I mean, that's why it's listed here. And this is the venue that you normally say you wanted things separate, and I think you've already indicated that you wanted it separate. So when we send out the agenda on Friday, it will be separate.
Okay, so what are we doing today?
There's
Just
supposed
discussing
to
it
be a
at the one-
discussion today. The ordinance was supposed to be here. There was a miscommunication.
Did you bring
because
copies, Tom?
I made copies, and they're supposed to have already been down here, and we've got people in my office trying to find out where they are to get them down here. I thought they were already here, and I can't get a hold of anybody in my office, which speaks well.
But we'll still vote on it on
Right.
next Tuesday.
The ordinance is coming down, and you know, we made some changes as late as yesterday. And that's why it hadn't been actually handed out until now.
Okay, but it will be the one that I
Right,
saw
it's the one that you
last.
approved for a vote on next Tuesday.
So we'll look forward to getting it shortly, and then we'll look forward to discussing it and voting on it next week.
Yes.
Director Wyrick, are your questions
Yes,
answered?
that's fine.
Okay.
I knew.
Okay. We'll get it in just a minute.
So we'll talk about it as soon as the paper gets here.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Director Richardson?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Bruce, 1 point of clarification, actually maybe 2. And I wanted to wait on Tom to speak to this. We did have changes. You did request changes yesterday, as late as yesterday. And if I understand the changes correctly, it's going to reduce the number from 10 ward directors down to 7 with the elimination of the 3 at large. Because I think your original one said we're going to have 10 ward directors, and we're going to elect them citywide by 10 different wards. But I think yesterday, you had, am I correct on that, Tom? You wanted to reduce it to keep it to the 7.
Tom, not Tom. This is not Tom's ordinance. It's the Urban
I
Habitat.
understand, but that was the modification I think that Tom was referencing, or I think that's why it's under the modification part. The other point of clarification, Vice Mayor, before I get back to number 2, that Doris asked about is that Director Hendricks is not the only one that still gets Pony on Fridays. I still get those as well, periodically, not as often as we used to, but she's not the only one who gets those, and it's dependent upon what I request in my board request summary. So I get that as well. So she's not the only one who receives that. If we're okay with that, Tom, if we have that, I also sent out a series of questions that I presented when this first came up, and I think Tom and Scott had answered them as much as they possibly could based on the information they had at that time, and I think I sent that out to the whole board along with the answers, the questions, and the answers that Tom and Scott had come up with, and I think there's some finality we need to place with those before I think I'm comfortable with moving forward with a yay or nay on this subject. So I don't know, Tom, if we're going to have that today. I'm
Gonna
not putting
have
any
it
pressure.
before the end of the day.
Thank
I
you.
was asked this morning to draft a franchise ordinance.
Gotcha.
It wasn't on the thing, and to do one
Well, I'm
other
not
thing.
trying to put any more on your plate, but I know we did have that when this item first came up. There was a series of questions
Right,
I
and we've
presented
got
to
the
the
answers
board.
to all of those questions.
Okay, thank you. So it is complete.
Yes.
And back on M2, if we're okay with that, Bruce, or Chief, what supportive services are going to be provided at that holding center? I don't want to call it a holding center. And what's the duration of the stay for the people that we enter in that program or that facility?
Chief
So
Buckner and-
two questions, Chief. What are the supportive services going to be offered there? And what will be the duration of the stay of individuals transported there?
Vice Mayor, Board, Mr. Moore, Mr. Carpenter. The services is kind of a multidisciplinary team that will provide services, both nurses, social workers, psychologists, and psychiatric techs from the UAMS Psychiatric Research Institute. The maximum stay that one can have in this facility is 96 hours, 4 days. The average stay will be about 24 to 48 hours. And then I think that answers your two questions there.
Yeah, well, that leads to one other question, Chief. So if given the maximum stay that you just presented, what would be the plan of action once they're released? Are we going to release them, take them to mental health facilities?
You would hope to be able to connect them with continuing services that they would have. And then one of the key things that's mentioned here is referrals for housing, but because that certainly is an issue with many of the individuals.
And that would be accomplished through MOUs? Memorandum
Our
of
MOU is to be a participant in this facility.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, I want to make sure we have gotten all the questions asked about the modifications. I know that I requested to hold item 3 separate next week on behalf of a constituent, and a request to do item 5 separately. And because we just went on the modifications. Item M3 and item M5 will be separate on the agenda next week. Director Hendricks.
I wanted to add a comment to what's written here on M5 as an ordinance, is that I want the public to know, is that we're pushing for this, if it's passed, to be placed on the general election November 6th this year. So that's the push that I'm pushing for. And my concern is I cannot imagine why this board would not take the time to put this before the people in the general election. I had talked to one board member earlier, and it's some question about going back. I'm looking forward. I'm not going back to 1993. We're moving away from that. And it's cheaper. I have suggested to the board that if they feel that it's not necessary to pass this legislation, then you're going to cost the city some money, because I will be going into federal court. Thank you.
Any other comments before we move on to the consent agenda? There are a number of items on the consent agenda, and I think rather than asking if we have any questions,
Here's one.
Okay. Any questions on items 1 through 7 on the consent agenda, or any presentations that people would like on items 1 through 7? Director Wright?
Mr. Moore, Resolution 5. Is that in Ward 6 or 7? And is that a vacant lot?
You may call on Doug, our land
I
bank
know where-
administrator.
I think I know where it is, but I'm not sure.
Good evening, Vice Mayor Webb, Board. Yes, Director Wright, that's correct. It's 6.
Orient me if you can.
I have an aerial photo. Can we show that?
Yeah, that's where I thought it was.
That's a liquor store.
Yeah, that's where I thought it was. That lady had been trying to donate that to us, and I didn't see any movement. And then I saw a for sale sign go up, and so I'm glad to know that we did move forward on that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on 1 through 7? If not, 8 through 11? Any questions on 8 through 11? The next set of grouped items are items 12 through 17. Director Wyrick?
I'd like a presentation on item 13, and that's past your number, though. You said, is this what you're asking for?
Yes.
Oh, okay, all right, good, then I'm on board. Item 13, I'd like a presentation, and item 15 as well.
So 13 and 15.
Let me call on our planning director, Mr.
And-
Collins.
And 16 also. We're getting a lot of growth out in Ward 7. Yay.
Mr. Collins?
Vice Mayor, members of the board, Director Wyrick, the property is located at 11,201 Stagecoach Road for that item for 13. If you look at the zoning map up there, right now the property is currently zoned industrial. On there what they're looking to do is they're looking to rezone it to a planned and revise the industrial and change it to a planned development. That's why it's for the board to add some commercial uses. The commercial uses they're looking to add, if you'll bring up the site plan for them, Scott, you can kind of see some of the stuff I'm about to talk about. If you look, it's going to have office, commercial in the front, uses, and then mini storage in the back, and it's going to be phased. They're looking to keep C3 general zoning also be allowed use, also to keep light industrial uses, and as described in the back, you can see that the mini storage is going to be added in a later phase as needed.
This one also gives them the ability to do excavating ahead of the
Yes, there was.
work.
That is correct. There was an advanced grading request asked, a variance, and granted at the Planning Commission, and that is a variance that is before the board for approval.
Okay, and how many acres is this? I forgot. 2.7?
5.57 acres is the total acreage. The back portion of it is going to be detention facilities, because that's the way it generally slopes.
Okay, and do we know what types of uses that they're talking about for commercial, have they said?
They haven't said what types. Some of the stuff they're looking to add on there is, as described in some of their build-outs, they're going to park some boats and trailers in for that mini storage area in the back temporarily in the graveled area. They've just allotted the mini storage as far as the specific use allowed in there. The other one is just any C3 proposed building use and light industrial use.
Okay, does that include liquor stores in that C3?
It does include liquor stores in C3.
Okay. Okay. I do not recall that there were any people against this ordinance at the Planning Commission. Do you remember?
Yeah, there was no registered objectors and
That's what
nobody
I
stood
thought.
up.
Okay. Okay.
And then item 15,
Yes.
Scott, if you pull up the zoning map for it. This is located at 9,222 Stagecoach. It's an existing planned office development. Right now, there's an existing building built and parking in front. You kind of see it in the lower portion closer to Stagecoach. Scott, if you pull up the site plan. It's pulling up slow. Give it a minute, Scott. Sometimes that loads kind of slow off the. Well, looks like that when we need to look at that link. I can explain it. The original, oh, there it comes. The original planned office development, you'll see 4 buildings in the back that Sam proposed, and that still is proposed. They're looking to keep it there. The existing building, the one in the front lots, is really what we're talking about. What they're looking to add is they're going to want to revise the planned office development to add, allowing a restaurant use in that existing building. Now, the specific restaurant use that they've talked about is for a Papa John's to allow it. They're not going to have any sit-down dining in that. There'll be places to sit, but it'll be for just pickup only.
Okay. Is this the location where there's an existing building that used to be a medical building? Is that what's on Lot 1?
It is a vacant office building, and
Okay.
it used to be the medical office.
Right, medical office. So this is a lot that's next door to it, or is it
No,
taking
it
up
is that
part
building.
of? It's
It is
that
taking up
building.
it is taking up a portion of the building.
Okay. Well, the way
It is
looks-
taking up, we'll take up 1,200 square feet of that
Okay.
existing 3,000 roughly square foot building.
Okay. Kind of looks like it's 2 different buildings, the way this looks, but okay. I know where that is. And the other side of the building is for C3 uses as well. I think we rezoned that a while back, didn't we?
There's been rezoning on this property,
Okay.
so they
And I
want to
didn't see
retain, they want to retain all that. It was just, this is specifically to allow the Papa John's restaurant to come into that building.
Okay, and I didn't see any objectors in the information on that.
No, there were no registered objectors present, and there was nobody speaking against.
Okay, and then that leaves 16.
Scott, if you'll pull up the zoning. This is at 9601 Colonel Glenn Road. It's existing right now R2 single family. What they're looking to do is rezone that to a planned commercial development for general retail use. If you'll pull up the site plan, Scott. What they're looking to do is essentially it's a Dollar General type store that they're looking to put in. So you'll see the parking and they're around the building. So it's going to be that type of use, you know, the small Dollar General retail store type of use. There was a registered objector at the meeting.
Right.
One person spoke against that. Their concerns was the traffic, coming in and out of that site, not only just for congestion at the drive, but also the lights and the time of operation.
So what I could tell from the write-up was that they lived across the street from this, or a neighbor lived across the street.
Their neighbor lived directly across. They were adjacent to them, so they are still across the street, but not right in front of. The neighbor's driveway is the one that would be just across from this driveway.
Okay. And then what is this in the back of it? I can't read what that says. Approximate location of?
Detention area.
Okay. Did we have like a drainage project for this area That was in the last funding for drainage in Ward 7. Does this back up to Tall Timber subdivision?
Pull up the zoning map, Scott, please.
I couldn't tell from
I do
looking
not
at that.
believe this was the tall timber one. Ronnie might be able to kind of speak a little bit, but
Okay, that's
this was
the-
not the tall timber one.
Okay, that's the church there, I see that now.
Yeah.
Okay, so do we have any drainage issues back there? Any reports of problems back there, on the back side of that you know about?
But
maybe?
not that I know about. It is lower in the back, and that's why the detention facility's back there. Typical Colonel Glen's a little bit is higher than everything else in the area, as you well know. But there's nothing currently been reported to us of that. And I don't remember it when I was over in Public Works of hearing this area.
Okay, and how close are these homes that are on Marigold Drive to this application?
Well, they're adjacent to it. That is their property, their rear property lines.
So they'll abut them,
They'll abut
the
them,
back
and
property
they're
lines.
proposing the buffers per our regulations between the zones.
Okay, will they put up fencing,
Yes, there will need to be fencing done, that opaque fencing.
at least on that side? I don't know about the other side, but on that side. Did they provide a landscaping plan with this application?
That is not provided at this time. After the approval, then they go into more detail of all the landscaping and what's to be presented per the city ordinances.
Yeah, that seems to be kind of backwards to me. I think I've fussed about that before, that we'd like to see that ahead of time.
Well, the applicant can in a plan development, if they come in, if it's needed for more of a clarification of what they're asking, especially if there are specific variances for those landscaping codes, like if they was drastically reducing buffers or drastically eliminating some of our landscape ordinances, because that would come before the board, for that approval in that plan development.
Yeah, this is the one that's 2.74 acres. Okay, I didn't see any variances for this application. Did I miss any? I always worry about when we put stuff like this close to a neighborhood.
No, there was no variances in the deal to request. They will be doing it per our ordinances.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Tom, just for clarification, want to verify that we are throwing away the first
Yes.
ordinance we got a few minutes ago, and the one that was just passed out is the correct ordinance that we will have next week.
Right, and it's got last written on it, and it's because one member of the board of directors found something that I had missed, and so we changed that.
Thank you.
The change was in the emergency clause, and it was just a change in numbers.
Change of a number.
Right.
Thank you. Item 18. It's not on. I promise it's not on. Now it's on. Director
Okay.
Hendricks.
I wanted to ask Tom, what was the change? What did you need to change?
Director Hendricks, I had caught all of the 10s and turned them to 7s but one. And
What line is it? What line?
it was in the first line of the emergency clause. And so.
On what page?
Page 2, line 30. The first draft you got said the ability to elect 10 members, and we changed it to the ability to elect 7 members.
Okay. Okay. And I want to let the board know that Tom is not to blame for this, because we had groups of people helping me with this, and I did not give Tom the final change until what, Sunday? When was Monday?
I think we confirmed it yesterday. Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
yesterday. So I don't want anybody to be thinking that it was Tom's mistake. And for me, it was not a mistake. It was that we need to correct what I had given him.
Thank you.
Tom, you're not going to take the blame for that. I'll take it.
Thank you.
Thank
Director.
you, Don.
Thank you,
Thank
Director Hendricks. Any questions on item 18?
6:30.
Any questions about anything else? If not,
18 could be grouped if you want.
And 16, Director Wyrick, did you want that?
so we'll take 16 separately and we'll put 18 in the grouped items. Okay. Okay, seeing no other questions, we will meet again next Tuesday at 6 o'clock. Thank you.